Good
For
evening,
those of you,
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Seeley. I'm the assistant head of school at Church Farm School, and we'd like to welcome you all to our virtual revisit program. Unfortunately, because of circumstances beyond everyone's control, we're apart from one another. Ordinarily, we would welcome you to campus. We would show you all that life is like here at our school, and you would be able to participate in life around campus, ask questions, get to know people around school. But the COVID-19 virus has us apart, and it takes a little bit away from our community, but as we continue to say, the strength of our community remains the strength of our school today. Even as we are apart, we are together, and we're happy that you are together with us this evening. So we're going to do everything that we can to show you the strength of Church Farm School, to communicate with you the excitement that we all feel about being members of this school community. I certainly feel it in the 7 years that I've been a member of this school community, and we hope that at the end of this call, you'll feel that same enthusiasm, not just from me, but from the other panelists who are here to join you. And I hope that you'll feel the sense of all that awaits you when we're back in school and when we're able to welcome new people to campus to make our community even stronger than it already is. As we get started this morning, we're going to turn to Ms. Vernice Faranga Mulcahy, who's a member of our STEAM department, and she's just going to offer a few guidelines and outlines for how we're going to have this conference work and how we will invite your participation in it.
thank you, Mr. Seeley. Hello, everyone. We're so excited that you could join us for this first ever virtual revisit day. We're using the Zoom platform, so it's wonderful that you were all able to log in. We were just getting started, so if you were in the room for a little bit, you didn't hear anything because we just started. What you're going to be seeing on screen are the panelists who are speaking, and I believe you only see the person speaking, just one person at a time. If you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat window. If you hover over the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little icon that says chat, and that should pull up a window on the side where you can ask questions there. Right now, we don't have the video enabled for any of the attendees right now, but if you would like to communicate with us, please feel free to use the chat window and just type directly into that window, and our moderators will keep track of all the questions that you would need to ask or any comments that you have throughout this presentation. So thank you very much again for joining us, and we hope you have a lot of fun. This will be fun for all of us. It's the first time we're all doing it.
Well, we look forward to everyone's participation and to seeing your great questions for all of us. And we expect to be able to answer those questions that you have. As we get going this evening, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Sherrill. Reverend Sherrill is the head of school, and he'd like to welcome you all as well. Mr. Sherrill, you're on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seeley, and good evening to everyone, wherever you may be. First and foremost, I want you to know that all of us here are concerned for your well-being and safety, as we are for every member of this community. So I hope that, as trying as the current circumstances may be, that you're doing your part to stay well, stay safe, and to take care of those things that you need to do on the home front. As Mr. Seeley said, my name is Ned Sherrill, and this is my 11th year as the head of the school. And I get to say that this is the best school in the country. I'll share a few details about that as to why I think so. Ultimately, our goal tonight is to seal the deal, to invite you to sign up, to come to the school, to join us. Some of you have already chosen to do that, and we hope that others will choose to do that too. And here's why. First and foremost, Church Farm School is a community of caring people who look after the welfare of one another. And certainly in times like this, what we really understand is that opportunity comes from challenge. Our best selves rise to the surface when we find that the going gets toughest. And so in that particular vein, in that particular atmosphere, is even how Church Farm School was founded. The last big virus that came across the world was in 1918. But more to the point, the founder of the school wanted it to be a school of opportunity, to be a school that looked for young men looking to be their best selves, looking to apply that self to the world's greatest challenges. And here at Church Farm School, there's an environment of caring, of concern, and of academic rigor, of the possibility. I imagine that some of you might be even thinking today that you might see yourself as a caregiver, a potential doctor or nurse, a counselor, perhaps even a pastor to meet the needs of a crisis like this. Or maybe you want to be a scientist to cure these diseases, or to do other things in business, to move things from a production line to serving their fellow human beings. That is at the heart of church school. It certainly is at the heart of any good school, but this is really what I think sets us apart, that we want to extend that opportunity to any boy, regardless of their circumstances. If you are motivated, if you care about making a difference, if you're ready to apply your best self to situations like today, then really Church Farm School is that place. We really exist for that reason, and to encourage the best out of us in every possible way. We speak often of our name, Church Farm School, issues of that academic work in school, issues of the tenacity and persistence that once was sort of the farm and the labor of a farm, but certainly out of the faithfulness of the church, where we respect the dignity of every human being, everybody's self-worth, regardless of where they are on this planet, regardless of their faith tradition. We believe in an expansive and loving God who cares for us all, and we seek to apply ourselves to the best of that knowledge through the ages that comes to us in a variety of traditions, but certainly our own Christian tradition, that God fundamentally loves us, that this earth, this created order is meant to be cared for, and certainly human beings are meant to be cared for by every other human being. And so we look after that out of our best selves, and doing that by following our four great values. Certainly respect, I just spoke to, about respecting every human being, respecting our created order, but also respecting ourselves, our personal integrity, about that talent that lies in ourselves and how we can rise to challenges of any type at any time. And these types of things, I think, are motivating us very much so today. And there's a responsibility to that, another value that we have, to really sort of enter courageously the world order and to serve its deepest need out of our greatest joy. And fundamentally, that establishes us then in a brotherhood, our word for community, looking out for each other's welfare, for this common good. We are each other's keeper at the end of the day. And even while life at times for some of us may be shorter than others, we have this breath to use to everybody's service. And so brotherhood here becomes something very real. And I hope that you hear that most of all from the three students who join us this evening. They are great examples of their brothers here who are in different places tonight, many of them in New York, many of them in a place of really sort of where the virus seems to be peaking. But they know that they can be agents for good, and fundamentally, that is what Church Farm School is all about. So it is my pleasure to greet you tonight this way. And again, as I said, I hope that this in many ways seals the deal. I'm looking to have you come join us in the fall, and hopefully all of us, my colleagues here, will inspire the best out of you and out of each one of us together. So thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Mr. Sherrill, for that welcome. We are going to introduce the panelists, or we'll have the panelists introduce themselves. And we will start with our faculty members. Mr. Blair is the Director of Student Life, and this is his first year at Church Farm School. Although he is quite experienced, he can tell you a little bit about what he does and his role at the school.
Good evening, everyone. Wish we could see each other in person. As Mr. Silly said, I am the Director of Student Life. This is my first year. I oversee pretty much all of student life, behavior, student government, the college side of things. Real quick, what really drew me to Church Farm School was its mission, but also its core values: respect, responsibility, integrity, and brotherhood. once you get on campus, you really feel and see these things every day in life. And we have such a dynamic community. I love it here. I look forward to meeting you all and joining you, having you join our community. Any further questions regarding student life, please type them in and we'll get to them. Thank you.
Ms. Tiffany Scott is the Director of College Guidance, and she'll tell you about the work that she does here as well.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Tiffany Scott. I'm the Director of College Guidance. I have been at Church Farm School for 6 years. In my role, I work with all students as they go along in the college process. I work extensively with juniors and seniors and working on finding the right college fit for them. That's the right academic fit, financial fit, and social emotional fit. And I'm glad that all of you joined us this evening. Church Farm School is a wonderful community that I'm so proud to be a member of.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mr. Thompson is the longest tenured member of this panel, and he is the Director of Athletics. Mr. Thompson, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you virtually tonight. Hope to be with you in the real world next fall and have you join the Church Farm School community. This is my 22nd year. As an employee at Church Farm School, as a member of our community, I started as a cottage faculty member. I've been an academic faculty member, coached a number of sports, and currently serve as an administrator and the director of athletics. So I oversee our afternoon program, including all of our athletic teams and programs and our afternoon clubs. I look forward to telling you more about them later. And if you have any questions, please type them in and we'll get to them.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. As important as all those folks are you've just heard from, we're going to increase in the importance of the panelists. We'll move to our teachers and then to our students, who are obviously the most important folks and who will offer the most information to you as well. Ms. Varanga Mulcahy, you've heard from already, but she's going to introduce herself again.
Hello, I'm referred to as Miss V here. This is my 3rd year at Church Farm School. I'm a science teacher. So I teach 9th grade science, which is called Technology, Engineering, and Design. It's like an intro to engineering class. I also teach chemistry here, and I'm the 11th grade chair. And I'm a very proud parent of a class of 2020 graduating senior here at Church Farm School. So welcome and thank you for joining us.
Excellent. Mr. Bob Warfel is a member of the humanities faculty, and he runs one of our cottages. Mr. Warfel, please let folks know a little bit more about what you do.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Mr. Bob Warfel. This is my 6th year at Church Farm School. As Mr. Seeley said, I am an English teacher in the humanities department. I also teach freshman English. I am the head of a freshman dormitory, and I serve as the 9th grade chair. So I look forward to answering questions about residential life and about academics tonight.
Great, thanks, Mr. Warfel. Angel Vasquez is a junior at Church Farm School, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, where he's from, and about his experience here at the school so far.
Hi, everyone. I came to CFS as a sophomore. I'm a junior now. I'm a student leader. I'm a prefect in one of the freshman cottages, and my job is usually to help students adjust, help them get chores done, be like a role model to them. If they need help with any of their homework, things like that, they can come to me. I'm also a student ambassador, so I give a lot of tour guides. I may have seen some of you during my tour guides. Sorry if I don't remember you right away, but that's what I usually do at CFS, things like that. I'm also an officer at the school's DECA club, which is like a business club.
Great, thank you, Angel. And Connor Hirsch is a sophomore at the school. Connor, please introduce yourself to folks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Connor Hirsch. I am a sophomore here at Church Farm School. I hail from Queens, New York, and some of the farm is I'm a student ambassador. I am a co-officer of our business club DECA. I am part of our golf and bowling teams, and I also used to be part of the baseball team, hence the CFS baseball hoodie.
Great, excellent. Thanks, Connor. And last but not least is Jelani Alamu. Jelani is a 9th grader, new to the school, and is closest to the position that all of you who have logged in tonight are in as you're looking at the school and looking at what the 9th grade experience will be. Jelani, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jelani Alamu. I'm from Staten Island, New York. and I am a freshman, making this my first year at Church Farm School. This year, for the winter season, I wrestled, and for the fall, I did soccer. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys next year in the fall.
Great, thank you. Well, the questions are pouring in for sure, and we're excited to have an opportunity to respond to those things that are on your minds. This is the time where we get to interact with you a little bit. So if you've been able to ask a question so far, thanks for that. If you haven't, feel free to type into the chat feature, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can. So one question that we have from a student comes right off the bat in thinking about how to prepare for life at boarding school. And the question is, what should I bring to school with me in the fall? So I'm going to turn to Mr. Warfel. He's one of our 9th grade cottage heads, and he is also the grade dean, or the grade level chair for the 9th grade. So he does a lot of work with our 9th grade students and can answer this question pretty well.
It's a great question. It's also a little bit of a hard one to answer because each person is different, but you have to think about the fact that you're going to be here for 9 months of the year. And this is pretty much going to be your home away from home. So you want to bring certainly your school clothes, athletic clothes, and recreational clothes, and you're going to want to bring personal items. But as you will see a little later when I show you what our dorms look like, our rooms are pretty small, and you're not going to have a whole lot of space for your belongings. So you also have to be very specific about what you bring. And so we generally tell people to bring stuff on a seasonal basis because we have a couple big breaks that happen throughout the year where you're going to have a chance to go home again. And so at the end of Christmas, for instance, when you go home for Christmas break, might be a good time to start bringing some of your winter stuff home and bringing some spring stuff back. And certainly when you go home for spring break, to do the same, to bring your, spring, summer stuff back. But you'll get a list over the summer of all the specifics, but that's kind of just an overview of what you might want to be thinking about.
Great, Mr. Warfel, thanks for that. I'm going to turn to students who can also offer some perspective on that with a little different spin. Jelani, you've just arrived at the school, or you arrived most recently. What's one of the things that you were sure to bring that meant a lot to you that you really wanted to make sure you had at school with you?
I guess this is kind of, for me, it would probably just be my phone, just because I would like to maintain contact with my parents and family back here at home. But I guess one of the more essential things was mainly my school supplies, like notebooks and folders, pens and pencils and things like that. And also bedding, like sheets, towels, because you're going to be living there.
That's perfect. And speaking of where you're going to be living, there's another question about our dorms. Connor, if you would please, could you explain what dorm rooms are like, what living quarters are like for students, whether you have roommates, whether you live in a single, and what life in dorms generally is like?
Absolutely. So you're going to be assigned to and
I think we're having a
student leader, and inside of all the dorms, there's a.
I think we're having a little problem with Connor's connection, so we'll try to get that straightened out. But Angel, we're gonna punt to you. If you could tell us a little bit about dorm living, especially in your role as a prefect, that'd be great.
I feel like dorm life is definitely like the most important aspect of CFS. It's where you get to really know people, and it's like the first interaction you have with other students that you're gonna meet. So towards the beginning, I remember last year when I first came to school, the first thing I did, once I had my room settled and my parents left, everyone left, it was like the first night, we all got together and we just played a huge game of like Uno with just those giant cards. And the dorm's actually where you get to know a lot of your good friends and things like that. And for Connor last year, he met his roommate for the first time and he stuck with him till this year. The rooms, you usually have a roommate, it's usually you and another person. There are a few singles, so you may have a single like your first year at CFS, or maybe later on. The dorm rooms actually get a little bit bigger as you like go up in seniority. So the freshman cottages are a little bit smaller than the rooms, for upperclassmen and things like that. And as many of you have seen if you visited the campus, the dorms are split up into the freshman side and the upperclassmen side, which you'll go to once you become like an upperclassman, sophomore, junior, senior, things like that. So that's pretty much what I have to say about dorms and things like that, and the general gist of what it's like to live in the dorms.
Great, thanks, Connor. We'll turn to a different question. And this one comes from someone who is interested in our church affiliation. Mr. Sherrill spoke about that a little bit, so we're going to turn back to him. This person would like to know about the school's church affiliation, what the nature of our chapel program is like, and what opportunities for worship exist on campus.
That's a good question. So our school affiliation is with the Episcopal Church, a mainline Protestant denomination, which worldwide is the Anglican Communion, the Church of England. And really at the center of that is a concern to be sort of that bridge between Roman Catholicism and Protestantism. At the time, all of that was happening some time ago. But what it made for was sort of a middle ground, a focus on what really matters, good liturgy, but also centering on prayer. So you'll find in our chapel services a real center on what matters most to the community, how we're informed by a scriptural tradition, but really sort of scripture, tradition, and reason are the three core values of the church itself. And so by reason, we seek to apply ourselves to one another. We gather in chapel twice a week, Sunday morning and on Wednesday morning, but really to talk with one another about those things that really matter. Some of them may be community concerns, some of them may be global concerns, but it's a way of centering ourselves, remembering who we are. Again, as I said at the beginning, really a reverence for the earth, a reverence for God and God's creation, and most certainly for one another as the flowering of God's creation. So I hope that is an invitation to explore with us. And if you like to sing, I'm all for him singing.
That's great, thank you. We'll turn to questions about academics. Someone wants to know about the availability of course syllabi and the learning platforms that we use. To answer the specific question, if there are folks who are interested in the courses that we teach now, we can certainly get that information to you. It's not readily available or publicly available, but certainly we can get that to you. We'll talk a little bit about how students access their courses and the learning platforms we use. So let's try Connor. I think Connor's up and running again. So Connor, if you could tell us about the ways in which you access information for your courses, some of the online platforms that we use, and how you keep tabs on all the assignments and responsibilities that you have.
Sure. So the main hub that everything is centers around is probably our portal. That's where teachers can message you. That's where you can check your assignments. That's where you can check your grades. I know, like for myself, I'm in our school's choir, so when I have to practice singing for whatever new piece we've learned, I can go straight into the portal and I can pull up the audio recording. But a couple of other online things that we've used were pretty heavy on Edpuzzle, which is kind of like an interactive online tool that allows students to watch videos and interact with questions that teachers are able to put up. And I'd say we used to use Ingenuity for Math, which was a bit of an online course, but we've slightly shifted away from that. But I'd say everything centers around the portal. That's like the easy main access to communicate with both teachers and other students.
Great, thanks, Connor. Mr. Warfel, a question for you about the 9th grade literature curriculum. What are the great books that 9th graders read in their English classes?
We tend to focus on the classics, mostly epic poems in freshman year. So we start with Beowulf, then we move into the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are a little more complex. We do the Legends of King Arthur, and we finish the year with Lord of the Flies. Big books, but we take our time and we spend about a whole quarter on each book, delving into different parts of speech and different genres, and basically an overview of literature, but mostly focusing on the epic poems.
That's great. Thank you. We have a question about athletics and after-school offerings and activities. Mr. Thompson seems like the perfect person to lead us off with this. Mr. Thompson, what do we have that's available to students after school? Not just for athletics, but club and afternoon activities as well.
Well, thanks, Mr. Seeley. Thanks for the question. I would actually like to, I'm going to take a shot at sharing my screen here, have this information ready to go for you. Hopefully you can see that, and that's working. But athletics are a big part of our day here at Church Farm School. They're a big part of our program. We really work hard to provide a variety of offerings for all different levels that are going to go through a team experience for the most part. We want all of our students to go through the ups and downs of a season together, to win together, to learn how to pursue excellence together in any given sport. We work on sportsmanship, fitness, get you bigger, faster, stronger, and we also try to have a lot of fun. And so we try to provide a wide array of options to do that across the 3 seasons. We do require that all students participate in an afternoon program during all 3 seasons. You'll have a variety of choices each season. 2 of those 3 seasons, you're expected to participate on an interscholastic team. So I'll run through all the options so you can see what they are. If you have any follow-up questions, I'd be happy to take those later, or at another time I will be happy to be in touch with you after this webinar is through. But in the fall,
I think we've lost Mr. Thompson's audio. So we're going to switch back and while we get him situated again. Sometimes things are outside of our control and we just roll with it. But following up on that question about activities, I'd like Angel to answer a question about clubs. Mr. Thompson was just about to talk about clubs. What club options are available for students? And one student wants to know how many clubs can he join at one particular time, at any particular time?
So there are a bunch of different clubs at CFS, and they usually change throughout the years. So like my first year here, we had an agriculture club. We don't really have that anymore because not a lot of students were interested in it. The clubs that I can remember off the top of my head, we have a Japanese culture club, a chess club. We have an art club, a photography club. There's also the DECA club, which is a business club I'm a part of. Let's see, what else do we have? I'm pretty sure there are another few clubs, and if you have any like club ideas, you can always go up to a faculty member and try to start your own club. As long as you have a faculty member to actually help host it, you can pretty much start whatever club you want, as long as it's approved by the school, of course. You can, for the number of clubs you can join as many. You can technically join as many that fits in your schedule, and that's personally what I did. Trying to fit all those clubs in is a really difficult thing, so I don't think you should join as many clubs as you can your first year. Stick to around 2 or 3 your freshman year, and really try to focus on the clubs that you're really interested in, because those are the clubs you're probably going to stick with your entire time at CFS. So try to limit the number of clubs that you're in the first year, and then add more or leave clubs as you go through your time at CFS.
Great, thanks.
Mr. Seeley, can I jump in and add a few more about clubs?
So go right ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's other clubs. There's a club that talks about diversity and inclusivity. There's an M club, which stands for Multicultural Club, and there's a GSDA club, which talks about LGBTQ issues. If there's a club, I saw someone had a question about a cooking club. We don't have a cooking club. If someone wanted to start a club, just get an adult to sponsor it, and we would try to work it out. In terms of what you can do, I want you to be careful not to take on too much. Maybe do 2 clubs. I mean, you want to do things where you can actually be engaged in and have a full out experience. If you have too much on your plate with sports, your homework, multiple clubs, student government, leadership, then you're going to feel overwhelmed. So proceed with caution, take a little bit at a time and just enjoy your entire experience.
Great, thanks, Mr. Blair. And sticking with athletics for a little bit, there's a question about equipment. Jelani, if you will, does the school provide equipment for sports for people who are playing sports, or do you have to bring your own? What sort of balance should people think about?
So for equipment, I know that the school can provide what they have. So let's say for soccer season, if you don't have cleats yourselves and you can't attain them by the time the season starts or when you need to practice, the school will try and find some cleats for you. And that was really helpful in my situation. I know other people had the same situation. I know for baseball, they have bats, gloves, baseballs, helmets, and the uniforms. So not much is really needed. You don't need to get things yourself, and the school mainly handles it.
Great, Mr. Thompson, you're back. Do you want to add anything to that?
I think so. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I presented a whole lot of information. I guess I'm the only one who got it. I'll be happy to run through any more a little bit later. But yes, we provide all uniform pieces as well as other apparel for athletes to wear. We do, ask if you have particular sport equipment that you bring that. If not, we'll make sure you have it. Not having equipment is never a reason why you can't participate in a sport here.
Great, thank you. Turning to, before we let Mr. Thompson go, there is one question about health and safety. In addition to being our athletic director, Mr. Thompson coordinates work with our athletic trainer. He's also taught health at the school. And as I said, he's quite familiar with the school, having been here for more than 2 decades. So the question is this: where's the nearest hospital? And what sort of access do students have to health professionals outside of school?
Sure, I'm happy to run down a little bit, and if anyone else wants to jump in, you certainly can as well. We actually have 2 hospitals within about a 10 to 15-minute drive from school, the Chester County Hospital in Westchester, as well as the Paoli Hospital down the road in the other direction. We also have an outstanding nursing staff on campus. We have a number of nurses who are here every day of the week and really responsive to help out with any medical needs that students may have. We also have an athletic trainer who is here for all athletic activities. So any practice, any game, the athletic trainer is here and on hand for all those events.
Great, thank you. We're going to turn to Ms. Scott as the Director of College Counseling. There's a question about the guidance that students get as they make their way through Church Farm School and as they begin to think about the next step in their educational career. What do you do to help students make the best choices for themselves as they move on from CFS?
All right, well, thank you. So as the Director of College Guidance, I generally work with all of our students to make sure that they find the right fit for them for school. Just a little bit of background about the Church Farm School. We're about 180 students at our school in grades 9 through 12. We have 33 faculty members, and we have a 5-to-1 student-faculty ratio at our school. In terms of how our classrooms run, we run on 70-minute periods, and classes meet 3 times per week. Generally, we advise all of our students who are in a college preparatory program to take 4 years of each major subject. So that's English, foreign language, social studies, science, and math, so that they are college ready. We do offer an array of AP courses and honors classes. There was a question about, can freshmen take AP classes? We generally make sure that our students have a good grip on all of their academics their freshman year. So we don't have students in honors or AP classes their freshman year, but then students are able to apply into those programs afterwards. We are a school that does not rank. We are also really lucky in that we are able to provide SAT prep for our students at no additional charge. We work really closely with our students to make sure they have access to all that they need so that they can prepare smartly for that SAT exam during their junior year. And another wonderful thing that we offer at Church Farm School is that we have an alumni success program. The Alumni Success Program really works with our students to make sure that not only are they graduating from Church Farm School, but that they are also able to graduate from college within a good amount of time. We all know that the goal here is for our students to become college graduates, and we follow up with our students in a variety of ways to make sure that they do that. Here is just a little wordle about some of the schools where our students have attended in the years of 2015 to 2019. So you can see it's a large array of schools, private schools, public schools, small schools, large schools, schools that are close to our school and across the nation. And here's a list of the schools where our students this senior year have currently been accepted. And the schools that are in bold are the places where we know our students will be enrolling into. We really work with our students to make sure they're taking the appropriate courses, to make sure if a student, let's say, wants to be an engineer, that they're on a track that's going to make sure that they have calculus and physics before they graduate. And so our students we are working closely with our students to make sure that they have every opportunity academically to have the choices that they want for their college career.
Great, thanks, Ms. Scott. And how do you keep parents involved in the process, in the college process?
So we welcome our parents to work through the process with our students. We generally do a huge kickoff in the 11th grade during Parents Weekend, where we introduce parents to our system, which is called Naviance. Their parents can go online, see where their student kind of matches up in terms of their GPA and pre-SAT. I often encourage our parents to call in, FaceTime, Skype into our meetings one-on-one so that parents can play a role in their child's choice for college. We really realize that this is a family process and that everyone's opinion is really important. So we really work to support with our students and families to make sure that although they are at boarding school, this is a family choice. And we welcome parents to do that, ask them to fill out a brag sheet, talk to me about the types of schools they see their child attending, and welcome them to call and email and participate in all of the process for
Great.
college.
Thanks, Ms. Scott. We have a question about student support. Connor, could you tell folks what support systems are available to students in the academic realm, but also in other areas of school life, whether it's through advisors or tutoring? Who do you go to, and what's in place for students to make sure that they get the support that they need?
Sure, thanks for the question. One of the great things about CFS is that because we're such a small community, there's a lot of outreach to multiple different outlets. Like, I know if I'm ever feeling stressed with work, I can go to my dorm parent, Miss TH, and I can talk to her about whatever's happening. She always has like a light joke or a funny story. Or if I'm talking about maybe something that has to do with maybe one of our choir trips, because we were planning on going to Israel this summer, I could talk to my advisor, Mr. Gress, about that and other things along with my academics. And if students are feeling a little bit emotional, maybe a little bit homesick, because that's a little bit of an issue at the beginning of the year, advisors are great to reach out to, prefects are great to reach out to. But we also have a school counselor, Ms. Rosinski, who constantly offers support, and her door is always open. So really, it's anyone that you can feel comfortable talking to. You're able to have outreach to them, and it's very welcoming. It's very open. No one ever feels upset or very like tense about what they have to say. I'd say it's a very free and open environment to speak your mind.
Great, Connor. That's wonderful. Of course, school can be challenging, and we want it to be challenging for everyone as everyone grows and learns and understands how he can be his best self. But school is also intended to be a lot of fun. There's a question about activities outside of the sort of academic schedule or even the campus schedule. We have something called SWAT, which is a schedule of weekend activities and trips. Angel, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about the opportunities that are available through the SWAT and how students spend their weekends?
So there are a lot of different there are a lot of different trips that are available on the weekends, from King of Prussia, which is a large mall that's not too far away. Sometimes we go biking, things like that, biking on the trail in the area. We have trips to like breakfast places like Shady Maple's one of the places that we have access to that we can go to. This year, something that was new was actually having ice skating. So we had like an ice skating trip. And then there was also a trip where we got to actually hike a mountain which is a lot of fun. And then there are things you can also do on campus that aren't really activities you can go off campus. Like you can just take, personally, I'm really interested in the photography. So what I usually go and do on the weekends is I go around campus taking photos of things that are happening. People play basketball on the weekends, work out, things like that. So there are a bunch of different things you can actually do on campus, whether it's off campus or on campus.
Right, there's a question about taking care of personal needs, like getting haircuts and getting personal supplies. Those are certainly available through the SWAT, as well. There are a couple of barbershops nearby, and we try to get haircut appointments for students. And students can go to the mall or the local shopping centers to get personal effects as well. We have a question about day students. Mr. Blair, if you would please, how do day students stay involved in campus life? And what opportunities exist for day students to really feel like they're part of the community?
I would say the only difference with a day student is they don't sleep on campus as often. There will be a few weekends where we ask day students to stay on campus, but you have full access to everything that our boarding students have, whether it's clubs, whether it's athletics, whether it's student government. And other than, to be perfectly honest, other than not seeing some of our day students in the cottages at night, they're fully engaged. Again, if there's a club or activity that you want to get involved in and you want to do, I think it's best just to communicate and advocate for yourself so we know what you need. But honestly, I can't tell a difference between a day student and a full boarding student.
Great, Mr. Blair, thank you for that. Connor, we're going to turn to you for a question about weekend leaves. From time to time, students will want to leave campus on the weekends to go home or to visit family who live in the area. How does that process work?
That's a great question. That's actually what a lot of people ask when they first get here. There are green slips that you can fill out every week by the end of Thursday afternoon. They're called weekend request forms. Basically, you just let the school know and you let your cottage parent know when you're leaving, when you're coming back, and who's picking you up and dropping you off. And you're basically free to go home on weekends. Also, we have long weekends, which is when a lot of students go home, which is when we get half a day Friday and then no school on Monday, which is when a lot of kids go home. But it mostly revolves around the weekend request form. It's easy to access right outside one of the offices. You get your advisor to sign, dorm parent to sign, and your parents at home, and then you're good to go.
Great, Connor, thank you. Back to academics for a minute. Ms. Varanga Mulcahy is a member of the STEAM department. And if you could sort of explain what some of the offerings are within STEAM, that I think would satisfy a lot of questions that are out there.
I would be glad to. I'm going to try to share just a really quick slideshow of our offerings. So this one is math, I believe, is what is on. Oop. Oh, well, that helps. There's some video. I don't know if you can see that, but we do lots of things in STEAM. These are images from what my freshman class, the technology, engineering, and design class, have been working on. So you see battery-powered cars, aquaponics projects, solar-powered projects. But as far as robotics, because I know somebody had a question about that, we do offer extracurricular STEAM opportunities like the robotics club. We have a STEAM club. There's one that meets during lunch, and there's one that meets during one of the seasons. Instead of doing an after-school sport, students can choose one of our club options, and there is a STEAM club and a robotics club that meet during that time. And we also have an after-school, what's called a practicum at a local engineering company just behind us in the corporate center. It's called Analytical Graphics Incorporated, and we take 4 students every term over there to work with some of the engineers and learn how engineering works in the real world. So we have lots of STEAM offerings, but this is what I wanted to show you. So the top 2 pictures there are from our AGI practicum. They were learning how to fly a drone through that opportunity, and there's a picture of our robot in progress down there, and the video of the student in a kayak. We had our STEAM club build a kayak out of pretty much saran wrap and PVC pipe, and they actually got it to float and move around in the pool. So those are some of the things that we were able to work on as far as STEAM goes at Church Farm School.
Great, thank you. in general, the next question is about sort of the general activity of a normal day. Jelani, why don't you take a stab at explaining to folks what a typical day for a ninth grade student entails?
So a typical day at Church Farm, I would have to say that you're pretty booked for most of the day. I get up around 7 o'clock and then get dressed and head to breakfast. The first class starts at 7:45, and classes go all the way to 3:05. And then you have a little break time where you can go back to your cottage and just hang out until your sports starts, which is around 3:45. We have sports till around 5:30 to 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is dinner from 6 to 7. And then freshmen have study hall in the lower LC, the library, from 7 to 9. And then after that, you can just hang out in your cottages with your dorm advisors or your friends or classmates.
That's great. Jelani, thanks for that. And speaking of hanging out in the cottage and what cottage life is like, Mr. Warfel, could you run one of the ninth grade cottages? Can you tell folks about cottage life at CFS and what draws you to being one of the faculty members who lives with up to 18 students at a time?
I'd love to. And we put together a little slideshow because we know that a lot of you weren't able to get to campus to do a tour. So we wanted to show you a little bit about what a cottage looks like. This is my cottage, actually, Catholic Cottage. I've been the head of house there for 5 years now. The hallway that you see on the right, your left, is where the student dorms are. This is our common room, which is the largest room in the cottage. And as you'll see in a minute, it's always filled with activity. We try to keep everybody busy and have a lot of fun in the evenings and especially on weekends. And this is a picture of what a typical dorm room would look like with everyone stuff in it and trying to personalize it and make it look as much as home as possible. Being a cottage parent is an extremely rewarding position. It's something that I never aspired to until circumstance brought me to a school that had a residential program, a school prior to this one. And I realized just how deeply my relationships became with my students because of the interactions that I had with them at night in the dormitories. And so when I was in a position where I had to leave that school, I decided that my future in education was going to be in boarding schools. And I have been here at Church Farm for the last 6 years and have been a dorm parent for the whole time. And again, I can attest to the fact that the relationships that I build with my students in the cottage are the basis for the relationships that I have in class and outside of class, and all of those relationships are very powerful.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Warfel. As Mr. Warfel was saying, relationships and connections in community are really important here. We also recognize that there are times when people want to do some things that are maybe a little bit more individual and sort of plug in to some of the other realities of life. There's a question about the use of cell phones and playing video games. Angel, you've been here for a while. Can you talk about the school's position on cell phone use, video games, and other things that students might do that sort of pull away from community a bit, but certainly don't threaten what we try to build here together?
So I'm going to start with the cell phone policy. So to keep students engaged in the school day, we don't really allow students to use their phones from the beginning of the school day to the end, just so they can communicate with each other and actually be able to get this sense of so you're talking to another person and you're not just on your phone all day, and you can actually pay attention in class. So we don't really let students take their phones out and use it during the school day, unless there's an emergency or something. In that case, you can go to Mr. Blair's office and use it there to call a parent or anything like that. For video games, most students choose not to play. Usually they bring their own video games, stuff like that, but they choose not to play it usually throughout the week until Friday and Saturday night. That's usually when they spend most of the time playing it, because they don't really have the time to do their work and play video games through the school week. And they also would rather talk to friends, like hang out with friends, do things like that in the cottage, rather than playing video games all the time, like late at night in the cottages. And in addition to that, we actually have a lights out for freshmen. I believe it's 10:30 for freshmen and 11 for sophomores and juniors, and seniors I think it's 12. I'm not sure about that. But usually students choose not to actually play games all the time.
Great, thank you, Angel. One of the things we haven't touched upon, but is important to all of us, is the dining hall. The dining hall feeds us, it sustains us, it's a place where we gather as community. Could someone talk a little, Jelani, we're going to turn to you to talk a little bit about the dining hall, what the experience is like for students. When is it open? What's available to students? And are there any ways that students can get food outside of the dining hall?
That's a great question. So the dining hall is open for 3 meals: breakfast from, I believe, 7 to 7:40, lunch, which is it extends from, I believe, 11:40 to 12:40, and then dinner is from 6 to 7. And so what the type of things that are served are just like, there's a wide variety of things. So like it can range from salads to sandwiches, full course meals like mac and cheese or chicken. There's a circle where there's a salad bar. They have a made to order. They have a made to order bar where there's a special thing every day. You can have cereal, bread, and things like that, sandwiches. And I feel like the main part about the dining hall that I like the most is that's where I get to mainly interact with all of my friends and stuff, besides being in the cottages. Because with the dining hall, I eat with my entire grade. So it's like we get to all converse with each other and talk about things that we wouldn't normally be able to talk through for an extended period of time. And to answer the question about if I don't want anything from the dining center, you can order food from the provided vendors that the school offers. So like Mario's Pizza or Hot Wok, the Chinese food place, and they'll come to the cottages with your food service if you want.
Great, thanks, Jelani. One other question about some of the sort of routines at the school is about dress code. Connor, can you tell us what the CFS dress code is, please?
Sure. So one of the things I like about CFS is that we don't really have a dress code per se. You know, we do have a dress code. We don't have a uniform. So on your regular day, you would wear a collared or button-down shirt, khakis or dress pants, have a belt on, be in dress shoes and dress socks. And they're also, like, when it gets chilly out, they're approved CFS gear, like they're approved like CFS sweaters. I know like there are zipper downs that are also available. But on Wednesdays and Sundays when we have chapel, it's a button down with a tie and a blazer with nice slacks and dress shoes. But if you look presentable, especially like on a regular school day, it's not really much of a dress code. It's kind of like getting you ready for like a day of learning. It's really just the button down shirt with the belt and the khakis and the dress shoes and the dress socks. We also do have dress down days sometimes. I'd say we have one. We've actually had them pretty consistently this year, about say once every 6 weeks, where it's down days. It's jeans, nothing torn, clean shirt. Hoodies are allowed on dress down days, and I guess that pretty much wraps up all the types of dress codes that we have for different days.
Connor, thanks so much for that response. There's a question about communication with parents. Mr. Blair, we're going to turn to you for a second. How often does the school communicate with parents, and what form does that take?
Well, there's a lot of communication. As I typed in a few minutes ago, each student has an advisor. I think everyone on this panel, all the adults were advisors. So we have daily contact with our families, whether that's via phone, email. Also, the college faculty have daily contact with families as well. You can talk to Mr. Warfel about that. Teachers have contact. So we believe in a team approach. You don't just drop off your kid and leave and pick them up 4 years later. You're really involved in the process. We work together to provide your son with everything they need to be successful. And we also keep you in the loop of things. So you're not left out, you're included. And we value that strong relationship we have with all of our families.
Great. And on the academic side, we report grades to families. 8 times a year. Families have access to the portal, which people have talked about before. And so it's always possible to understand how a student is faring. But we write formal comments and report grades 8 times a year. We have 4 quarters of the school year. And advisors write advisor comments for each student at the midpoint of each quarter as well. So there's a lot of information that flows to the school. We like to talk about the ways in which we partner with families to help raise boys to become successful and confident and strong young men. Given the time that we're in, there is a question about our anticipation of the opening of school for next year. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Sherrill to answer this. In what ways do we think that the COVID-19 pandemic will affect our opening of school? And in what ways are we prepared to receive students and adults at the start of next school year?
Well, thank you for that question. And it's a difficult one to answer today. There are so many things that we just don't know about how the virus would continue to spread, what kind of health mandates would be suggested to government officials and how they would do that. I think primarily our initial concern at the moment is that we would love to hold a graduation ceremony for the class of 2020. It doesn't look like that we may be able to do that on time at the end of May. So we're exploring maybe other possibilities to do that. This is a first rite of passage for many young people, boys and girls, and it's an important one. And so we really want to hold that. We are anticipating that we will be able to operate under normal conditions. The one thing that we also have going on is a campus project, a building project, and that has been stopped at the moment. So there could still be some construction going on as school would start. But my short answer today is that we anticipate arriving for early athletics, new students coming to Saturday before Labor Day, returning students on Labor Day, and that we'd be off and running. Obviously, everybody's safety and health and well-being is our first priority, and we'll get that right.
Great, Mr. Sherrill, thanks. Obviously, there's a lot for us all to consider and to think about. At the same time, we know that there's so much that we do at school that's a lot of fun and that keeps our community together. I'm sharing now a slideshow which sort of presents some of the highlights of our school year. And I hope that you enjoy seeing a little bit about what Church Farm School is about. I'll speak a little bit, but I'll let the pictures speak for themselves. We certainly have enjoyed this opportunity to give you a sense of what life at Church Farm School is, whether it's the ways in which we start together in September with convocation, with orientation trips, or anything else, and move throughout the year from month to month with lots of rituals, lots of activities that are open not just to those of us who live and work here on campus, but also to families. We have Parents Weekend. We have opportunities for parents to visit. We have opportunities for parents to share in some of the life of the school as we live stream events, especially in the chapel, as you see there. And as the year progresses, there are so many ways in which we can come together as a community and celebrate who we are, celebrate the great heritage of the school, and everything that we are endeavoring to do together. So we certainly hope that you feel the strength of our community, the joy that we have, the love that we have for one another at this school, and the desire that we have to work together to sort of build a better place for ourselves and for future students just like you. So there's an invitation that you've earned to join the school community. We hope that you'll take that seriously. We hope you'll take us up on that offer, and we certainly hope that students and families together will join in the greatness that is Church Farm School. We remain open to you, to your questions. I think we've gotten through many of the questions that have been presented tonight, but if there are any more that you have that you want to run by us, feel free to reach out to folks in admissions. They can direct you to others of us, and we will certainly do our best to answer all the questions that you have. And so with that, we'd like to ask Mr. Sherrill to close us out. As is our school tradition, we often include prayer in our time together. And so we want to conclude this evening with a prayer for all of you, for all of us, and for everything that we share at this school. Mr. Sherrill.
Well, thank you, Mr. Seeley, and thanks to all of our participants tonight. We know that this is an extraordinary time and that a virtual meeting like this is not a replacement for the real thing about being on campus. But as Mr. Seeley said, we hope that you'll reach out with more questions that you have and that you'll visit our website where you can see more pictures of what life on campus is really like. And we hope that you will join us in the fall. But one prayer to, again, think about the world in which we live in and of our best efforts. Almighty God, we entrust all who are dear to us to your never-failing care and love for this life and for the life to come, knowing that you are doing for us and for those whom we love even greater things than we can desire or pray for. By your grace, may we be our very best to serve your world in its greatest need out of our joy and our talent. All of this we ask for your love's sake, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We wish you the best. Have a wonderful evening, and we look to being in touch with you all throughout. Thank you.